And we should be live. What's happening, Fishing friends? Welcome to another live. As always, somebody in the comment section, I see we've already got stuff going on in here, but somebody let me know we're live. I see Hellabass is in here. My guy Philip Cheek in here. No, Philip. Philip texted me before and said if we get 300 plus people in here, Debo should have to sing Retro Bassin's theme song. There's no chance I'm singing that. It is a catchy tune. I do appreciate your theme, but I won't be singing it. So yeah, tonight we've got, of course, down yonder, we've got the Dizzle. Sir, how are you?
I'm another day, another video thing.
I think your internet's a little behind. You're a little skippy. That Walmart internet.
Oh my god.
Randy's coming to you from the Walmart parking lot. But luckily we have Retro with us. Retro Bassin in the house. What's up, dude?
What's going on, guys? How you doing? His connection's old school, so that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a retro. Yeah.
He's got the AOL going on.
Nothing was worse than getting ready to hop on the phone. You're like, Mom, get off the phone. I'm trying to dial up.
Grandma said she had to call Aunt Kathy real quick. Sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think you're live. All right. So what's happening, Feature Friends? We got 75 people in here. Looks like we're working. People saying, yep, it's working. Sounds good. Perfect. Well, tonight should be fun. I text my old man saying, Dad, you got to watch this one. We got Retro Bassin because in front of him right there, down to the, I guess, to the right, what you'd see, is the old school color selector we were joking about before. Dad and I had one, and we still joke about it like that damn thing never helped us.
So it's a crazy bait. So this was designed by the late great Dr. Lauren Hill, whose son Kenyon Hill was a bassmaster. And I don't know, do you know the story about how he invented this thing?
No, tell us.
So he was a marine biologist, and he actually had a bunch of crayfish in a tank, and he painted them different colors under different light and water conditions. And they would see basically which bass hit which crayfish during different conditions. So like say it's super muddy and kind of dark, maybe the orange got hit. Well, what's crazy is this was hot. I mean, there was a time so this is kind of my go-to Bible, the 1991 Bass Pro Shop.
Dude.
This was like when I was a kid, I wore this thing out. And there were like whole 2-page spreads dedicated to the color selector.
Oh, yeah.
But it came in like 6 colors, and every one was like the most unnatural fluorescent color you could ever think of. So it's like every condition, it was like either flow green, flow blue, orange, purple, red. It was like these really wild. So it never sent you to a green pumpkin. I can tell you that.
Hella says he can barely hear Retro. I can hear him completely fine. Randy, can you hear him? No, I can hear you completely fine, dude.
Yeah, I thought it was just a little low, but I thought it was just me.
Huh. I don't know. Well, Retro, just yell.
I will.
Okay. I think you've got the voice that can handle it. He told me he was trying out for Who Wants to Be a Rock Star or whatever that show is after this. So what's the show where they sing? I don't know. Anyway, nobody cares about that. So tonight should be fun. That's interesting. Yeah, me and Dad used to use it, and I remember you were showing the hard baits. I think we had soft plastics. Ours, I want to say, came with like a bunch of soft plastic worms and grubs. Is what ours was?
Yeah, they had worms, they had grubs, they had something called the Rebel Redneck, which was a similar bait. But like, let's say, for example, you were going to throw a topwater. You had your choice of these colors.
That's like the head and torpedo. Is that what it is?
So every major brand actually got in on the color selector craze. It was
crazy. Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was head and it was Rebel. So yeah, and it was like basically either going to throw the blue, the flow red.
Oh my. Yeah, and for people that don't know, the color selector, like you drop the thing in the water and then it went off like water temperature and I forget what else, like all it did. Yeah. You drop it in there.
It's got 3 different settings, one for clear, one for stained, and one for muddy.
Yep.
And basically it tells you which color to throw. But again, it was always on a really bright color. It was never on a
like green pumpkin,
a pumpkin
black,
with red fleck. Never said that.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a flasher, but totally different.
Yes, I don't know the magic behind this thing, but somehow this detects what the water quality is doing, and it tells you. And there's a little sensor here, and it will basically say, "Here's your color."
I think you said it. I think that thing only did water temperature, if I remember. Because don't you set like what the water clarity is? Do you set that yourself?
So there's one that did temperature. There was another one that had pH. So they kind of like kept
ours was temperature that we had.
The really old school was just straight up color.
Yeah. Oh man, Dad, we should have kept it. Somebody said, DEBO'S mom and dad are in here. Be nice. Nah, they don't care. They know I cuss and stuff. They're good folks. So I'll try not to cuss too much. But yeah, dude, Retro, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm excited for what we're going to get into. Funny enough, I was talking to Retro before, and I've only showed a couple of these on stream, I think, but I've actually got a whole box from my wife's grandfather passed away a few years ago, and her aunt and uncle were down and dropped off a bunch of old school baits, and they're like, yeah, just keep some, show them on a stream or something. So we're going to kind of reminisce, go through some old stuff. I'm sure conversations will get fun. Randall, you can jump in with old lures that you remember.
Yeah.
Of course I am. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was actually, do you guys know what the Restore is? Habitat for Humanity. They take like everything out of an old house that the people that are getting a new house had. Yep. And then they just sell it to go towards the new house. So I was in the one here in Waterloo the other day, and they had like a little tackle box, and they wanted like $20 for it. And if it would have been like less than $20, I would have totally bought it. But it had some lures in there, and it had this, you flip open the top, then it had like 4 trays underneath. And in the top, there was some sort of liquidy stuff, and that kind of scared me. And I was just like, I have no idea what that stuff is. I'm out of here. It was like in a dark green bottle. It almost looked like, you know how Coca-Cola used to come in like those green tinted bottles, and it was like, it would almost be slime on the inside is what this thing looked like. And I was like, I'm probably going to die tomorrow because of this stuff.
Well, okay, so just before we get into it, I've got so many questions to ask you, Retro. Tonight's going to be fun, but I am doing a giveaway. You'll notice I have a Monster Bass hat on. The Monster Bass people, I'm not supposed to talk about it yet. However, they said I can on my stream because it's for good followers, people that watch every week. I'm going to drop a post or a link in the comment section. Hopefully you can follow it. If not, just copy and paste. But cool enough, the Monster Bass people reached out to me, and I'll share my screen here, and asked me to put together a DEBO box. So I was like, first I thought it was a joke. They're like, no, we're really doing this. So Monster Bass reached out to me. I did a DEBO box. I picked 9 of my favorite lures, and this is all me. Like, I actually picked these. It's not just some corny box that they put random lures in. I picked them all. I thought there was going to be like 40-some bucks. They put it $30. So there's a limited number of boxes. Check them out if you want a gift or if you're just looking for, lures, whatever. Check it out. I was super excited to do it. You can get them already early with the link here. But I'm going to give one of these away tonight. They didn't give me one to give away, so I'll have to buy it and send it to you. I should have told them not to be cheapskates and give me a couple boxes. They did send me a free hat, so I will do that. I'll do a giveaway. I'll just have to get your information later. Hellabass said this is correct. Is this box guaranteed to catch loads of DEBO dinks? Absolutely. I don't know how to catch big fish, Rich. So this is a dink slaying box. So check that out. I threw the link out there. But Retro, so give us your. We talked beforehand. Give us your elevator speech of Retro Bassin. 30-second intro.
Well, it's so funny. So they always say that like lures are meant to catch fishermen, not fish, and I think that's true. But I kind of love that part about lures. I love that lures catch fishermen. I think that's kind of for me. Growing up, a lot of kids had the Toys R Us catalog that they would hang out and look at this time of year. To me, it was that Bass Pro catalog. And I think it was a different time. I mean, now I think we all live about an hour away from a Bass Pro Shops or some major tackle store. But back in the day, there's a page in here where you've got to fill out your order. And I would spend hours. And here it is. So
I tell people about that that gets brought up all the time because I'm like, when I was little, you had this little page you had to fill out, and then you had to wait 3 weeks, a month, it seemed like, to actually get it in the mail.
Copy this page. I would make drafts. I would just work on it. And then when that box finally came, it was like magic.
Yeah.
It was like the greatest
thing. It's not like now.
So I guess maybe the show is more dedicated to me trying to recapture all of the lures that I let slip away in my teenage years. And so it's not like necessarily antique stuff. So I do like antique lures, but I've got to cast it. And like the national lure collecting folks would probably have a heart attack with some of the stuff that I throw out there. So to me, it's I want to get the old stuff that's discontinued, that's forgotten about, but then throw it, which is
That's the fun part. Yeah, and that gets brought up all the time. Like I've got a few, old school, hard-nosed guys that watch my channel and say, "Oh, Debo, why are you using all that? The old school stuff works just as well." And that's true, but like we talk about that all the time, that like there's two kind of parts to bass fishing. There's the fishing part of it, and then like especially, and I don't know, you said you were in Maine before. Where are you at now?
So I'm in Texas now. So I'm from Maryland.
Well, or Maryland. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't talk about weather now. You don't even tell me about the nice Texas weather.
I wore this tonight to eat outside, so you're
well, we have the two things: the actual fishing part, and then the lure buying, collecting. Like it's its own thing. It's its own part of fishing, and that's the fun part of it. Yeah, I agree. Finding lures, finding the new thing or some old thing cool and see if you can catch fish on it. But
and some of it's gimmicks. Like, so I've got some stuff here that I would say in the gimmick category. I showed you the spinnerbait that
show it. Hold on.
Night Lures.
Here we go.
King
Check this
Tom's.
thing out.
And this side looks like a normal spinnerbait, and notice here it's got a hook. This is designed for bass that strike the blade. I don't know how often that happens. Doesn't happen too often to me. But they had a whole spinnerbait designed. I would put this in the gimmick bait category, and I've been throwing this thing for a couple trips now, and I haven't actually gotten a fish on it, so that might be why. But this was a whole deal back in the day.
That's funny. Yeah, dude. Like I saw somebody else say it went too fast, but somebody said the helicopter lure. My grandpa had some of those. Like the silliest looking things ever. Oh, he's got some. Oh, there they are. Oh, I don't even like looking at them.
I came prepared. So yeah, this is one I would say of all the retro baits, this is the one I had the hardest time catching a fish on, because it's basically it's almost like if you ever have a worm that's hooked wrong and it spins. That's what this does by design. It's got a swivel which is meant to stop that, but you get about 2 casts in, and it is line twist city with this bait. So I spent about 3 hours trying to get a fish. I finally did. I know Roland fishes some lakes down in Florida, in the headwaters area, and he actually did a video pretty recently where he actually caught some fish on this. But this was a tough one for me, but a bait that I remember so well.
That's funny. And speaking of Roland, so okay, since we're digging in boxes, I had one. I was like, oh, I gotta get that one. Rolling in the old day, and sorry, there's a 94-cent Kmart sticker over it, but look at that handsome fella.
Looks like Scott Martin.
Yeah, that's rolling back in the old day. Looks like Scott Martin with some dapper hair there. What they call this? The flapping fool. Randy, they named this after you.
So that was a blue fox. Roland was really big into blue fox. And
yeah,
he was sponsoring. I remember there was the Johnson Silver Minnow he was doing. He was really big into blue fox. They had the flipping fool. They had a spinnerbait that he was doing a lot of.
See, I was never a huge Roland fan. Like people know. Oh, I don't know if you can see the hat back there, but I've got a Tennessee hat back there by my signed by Mr. Dance himself and Hank Parker. They were my guys growing up. So like the man spinnerbaits I showed last time, like the vampire lure. Have you seen those? The vampire spinnerbait. I have the undulator spinnerbait, which is like
undulator. I threw that last week.
Yeah, it's so funny the stuff that kind of comes around.
See, I was actually this was my guy growing up, Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy Houston. Yep. See, I was never a huge Jimmy fan either. I didn't like them.
He was my guy.
Him and Roland, I don't know. I think it was because Saturday mornings, and maybe they had shows that were later on, but it was always like Bill Dance and Hank Parker. I always got to watch their shows. I think it was after the Lenders. Randy was a big fan of the Lenders.
In fishing was the stuff, man.
Catching pike.
Yeah, they're E-Sox. They should be called the E-Sox channel.
Randy hates pike. That's the joke. Randy loves holding pike and smelling his fingers after he catches pike. Randy, it's fine. We're not going to judge you.
All right, let's make Debo take the pike off my hook, and then if I have to touch it, I ask him if he wants to smell my fingers. So
I love catching pike. I'll take pike all day. All right, let's see what we got for questions. Tonight should be fun, feasting friends. It's a laid back, good time.
Hopefully the audio is better. I'm yelling.
Yeah, just yell. You're fine in mine, so I think a couple of people said it was all right. Some people said, yeah, it was a little quiet, but it's fine. It's fine. Colin says Dizzle is the GOAT. Changed my mind. I agree. He's the true hero of my channel. Lots of people saying excited to see you in here, Retro. So that's awesome. I'm glad that a bunch of my people watch you as well. And that's the cool thing I talk about on fishing channels is like there's some people in the industry that are like, there's only enough room for my channel. Like I'm the best. And it's like there's enough room for all of our channels at the top. And there's so much like I don't even know what the right word is. Convergence between channels. That's not the right word, but you know, so many people watch all of our channels. You know, it's not just like people only watch one. But the Banjo Minnow.
Steal my sponsors because they're all out of business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's smart marketing. Dizzle, don't take that crap from Debo. Give him a heart punch. Hey, that actually might take me out. My heart's weak anyway, so that's fine. Get it over with. Pike are my favorite fish to catch. Outdooring says absolutely. What is worst color? Here's one. What is worst color for rattle traps? That was kind of a cool. Was that a rattle trap or like a lipless that you had there? The roller.
So I do have a rattle spot in here. I'll show you.
A rattle spot. I'll get the cool one I have. I show this on Burley's.
Oh, here he goes. Tackle Junkie Jr. over here. Man, I should have been more prepared for this. I don't have any lures to fumble around with or anything.
That's all I do is fumble with lures, though.
Oh, geez.
Nice.
Debo with too many sarsaparillas. It's a good thing he can't hear me. Oh, my God. As you can see, his wife works out with that tackle box.
This tackle box is heavy enough. I could actually do one-arm rows with it the same way I would do at the gym. See, people don't understand the struggle of I can barely even hauling this thing around when you're a kid. Impossible.
Right?
Horrible.
So here's one. This is the Cordell rattle spot in a flow red. And I've got it in this blue and black as well. But my favorite one is this one, which is no color. But here's why. It came with a kit.
To DIY it? Oh, yes.
So you tested it out with a color selector, and then you colored your bait in real time on the water.
Wow.
And then I guess you clean it with alcohol to get it back to white. But yeah,
that's like
but this is the proper like Cordell rattle spot. And it was
dude, that black and blue one. It's funny the black and blue one because Bill Lewis actually just came out with the whole black and blue series this year. So it's funny that you show that black and blue and like now, hey, guess what? It's cool again. It's in.
That's so funny.
So here's
I don't almost like it's a lot of black.
Yeah. Dude, that's it. I mean, that's if you look at Bill Lewis stuff, like they have a black and blue page. I'm pretty sure. Let me look it up. I'll bring it up here real quick while we're looking.
I've been trying to make you do black and blue stuff
for gold, which I liked a lot.
I don't know that I had like a worst color rattle trap. I only threw like a silver rattle trap for the longest time, like just an all chrome. I wasn't huge on them. Dad didn't really throw rattle traps a lot. Whoops, I didn't want to go to Tackle Warehouse.
I prefer this bait to the rattle trap. Who knows this one?
Well, hold on, I'm not looking yet. Oh yeah, is it Hella Bass that was just talking about that one, or Epic Eric? I think
Hella and Epic Eric do too.
Yep.
That's the Pogo Shad.
But
this is like a discontinued bait that they really should remake. This was Fish World when Tom Mann already sold Mann's bait, and it's basically a rattle trap with a tail, and it does two things. When you reel it, it moves like this, so it rides really high in the water column, and then what Eric likes to do is when you pause it, it kind of helicopters down in a really cool way. This is like on the tidal Potomac River, on the grass flats in the spring. Oh, this was the bait.
Huh. Yeah, I never had any of those. That's a cool one though. So here's let me see if I can share real quick. Stop sharing and share a different screen. So this is brand. So I went to 2021 new colors and look at this. Look at how close that looks to black and blue chrome. I mean, that's a lot of black. But they had their first three black and blue chrome, black and blue minnow. It's coming back. I think Sixth Sense really popped that off with the what is it? The Black and Dark Magic or something. I think they call theirs.
What's that one right there? The B&B Shad. I like that color.
B&B Shad.
Went away. Yeah, it was in that first far left column, second one down.
I go back to my share. There we go. Yeah, that's a cool color. I didn't get any. Look at that. Out of the 4 out of the 8 were black and blue of their new colors for 2021. That black and blue chrome's pretty cool. Okay, so for me, old school lipless, never caught a single fish on this, but this was mine. I showed this on the Burley. So it's a lipless head, but it had removable tails, so you could change the color of the tail on the back of the lipless, which was soft plastic. So that's all soft plastic. You can change it. Never caught a fish on it, but I'm sure they had different colors. This is the only one I still have. I was telling Retro before, one of my old tackle boxes that had a ton of stuff got melted and gross with like scent, because I used to spray that crawl scent on everything, and it just like the whole box was melted and gross. But I had a whole bunch of cool old stuff in there. That's the only one. Okay, I think we got a couple donations. I never asked for the donations, but anybody that throws them in, I appreciate it a ton. Dersh just brought a Debo box. Can't wait for it to come in the mail. I hope you and Dizzle are doing well. Dersh, thank you so much, brother. He and I just actually talked not too long ago. Good supporter, good dude. I appreciate it, my friend. And actually, I think I got your Mega Bass crankbait today. He sent me my first Mega Bass 110. I've never, ever purchased one, but... Okay, and Colin, just want to thank you for being an awesome YouTube fishing content creator. Always look forward to watching your videos on my lunch breaks. Cheers, fellas. Colin, thank you, my friend. Cheers to you. We appreciate the support. Julie said Black Magic, I think, is the Sixth Sense color that everybody likes. Power bait hard baits were junk. I don't know that I had power bait hard baits.
Well, that was a half power bait hard bait. That was the base of the head. I've got. I was trying
to these. Were these Berkeley? Is that what this was?
Yeah, they've got a crankbait, and they've actually got a Zara spook as well.
Really?
That is a Berkeley bait. Yep.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, there we go.
I bet it smells like power bait.
I just smelled it. Doesn't smell anything now.
It's probably 30 years old. That's why.
Let's see. What else do we have? Another one. G-Fan, another awesome supporter. Retro is always smiling and having a good time. Yeah, dude, he is a super fun time. How can you not have fun with Retro on here? Has the best theme song. Yeah, Philip said that too, Mr. Cheek. Said that if I had 300 viewers in here tonight, I had to sing the intro. That's not happening. Y'all don't want to hear.
Come on.
Just 95 more.
Okay, so what else do we got? Randy, do you have any questions?
No, not really. We were just talking right before we started, and I was saying there was a live, I think, that we were on quite some time back, and we were talking about baits, and it was the I just had the name of it a second ago, but it was the one where you could stick the scent stick in there, and it looked like it had like a shark bite out of the back of it. What was that bait called?
The Mighty Bite.
The Mighty Bite.
One of the worst gimmick baits ever.
that was an as seen on TV bait, and I was like, I saw that, and I was like, there's no way in heck that thing is ever gonna do anything. It literally looks like if a shark or like a piranha came up and bit the back of the lure.
It was basically the answer to this. So this was the Banjo Minnow.
Right.
And they just reintroduced this, by the way, which is kind of crazy. But
yeah, so I talked about it on a live
with a bite out of it. And it was red, and it was supposed to basically, like, you put the scent in, so it's supposed to, like, bleed the scent. It was basically kind of like a cruddy swim bait. Is kind of what it turned out to be.
Yeah, but did it have a big single hook on the back of it, the top of it, and then like a treble hook on the bottom?
Yeah, I think it was like one of those swim baits, like a saltwater swim bait, right? That doesn't really ride right in the water. It just dives and kind of just bounces on the bottom. Not like a true bass swim bait. But that was one of the great gimmick lures ever. But yeah, this is probably one of the best-selling, not the best-selling ones. This is a pretty good one. This was my favorite gimmick lure of all times.
Dude, there's guys that still use those. I've still got a couple. I've still got some. Yeah, there they are. Let's see. I'll have to look through here, see if I have them real quick.
Honestly, the cover scat is basically a better quality flying lure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, it was like a ridiculous version of a tube. I mean, is really what it was.
Yeah, it was like a flat tube, and for those who haven't seen it, so it's basically got this insert here, and it's a jig head where it's sort of flat, and the whole premise is that the bait flies away from you.
Glides.
But here's where they jump the shark with it, though. So it's basically a bait that you have to fish on a slack line, but it was geared toward amateurs. It's a good bait, but it's a pro bait. It's not a bait for 6-year-olds, and that's I think kind of how they spun it. But basically, you cast it out there, and it slides away from you and glides under into the cover that you want. Another problem is that it's a light lure, and anywhere you would actually fish this, you don't want to be throwing 8-pound test, and that's kind of what you need to fish this on. So it's a oh yeah, there we go.
And that's basically the same thing a Banjo Minnow was. You had to fish it, super light, no weights, and it was. I mean, I remember getting one back in the day and trying to use it, and I'm like, I have no idea what the heck I'm trying to do here, and. I mean, there was like hooks and rubber bands and weed guards.
So
and
funny
plastics.
enough, I thought all these got destroyed. I've got a chartreuse and a regular color left. But yeah, so it was like, so it's funny because I think it was Chris Rust that was like, dude, Debo, you understand the banjo? The last time I showed this, he's like, that's like the tactical Bassin fluke trick. I'm like, dude, that's exactly what it was. Like tactical Bassin shows they put a screw lock in the front of the fluke or whatever. They put like a little mosquito hook. This is original Banjo Minnow. Yeah. You had like little rubber things that you put on top and on bottom of the deal here, so this didn't slide. And then it had little rubber bands that looked like things that you put like on your braces. You hooked it at the front and then hooked it under the barb, so it had a rubber band here to keep it weedless. But like this is an actual old Banjo Minnow from, gosh, I don't know how old I was, 10. So what, 20 some years ago?
36. Something like that.
Yeah, like craziness. I actually didn't even know I had any of those left. How about these? I don't know what brand these are, but my dad and I used to kill it on these little tiger stripe swim baits.
That is a Mr. Twister Sassy Shad.
There it is. Boom.
Yeah.
Dad and I were huge fans of these.
Me and my pops used to troll for a striped bass on the Chesapeake with those, like the 4-inch model on a jig head.
Yep.
And that was a weird swim bait. So it's a really, again, the modern bass swim bait that's meant to almost go parallel in the water column. They're fatter. They're better balanced. That thing, it's narrow. It's meant for a jig head. It's a different bait. It's more like a bottom bait where it just goes right down. Not a ton of wobble. Just that little tail which kind of wiggles a little bit.
Yeah, those were.
That's like that's one of the first swim baits. That is almost as. Let's see.
Man, what a trip down memory lane tonight. We got Adam Colley's in here.
The original swim baits here.
The heck?
This is called a Vivif. It's from France, and it is. Look at that. It's got a paddle tail on it. But look at that giant hook. It's got this hook that goes.
Yeah, it's meant for sharks or snagging.
It's meant for sharks. I've actually thrown this thing on a swim bait rod. It's about 2 ounces, but it actually fishes kind of similar to that pogo shad, where it just sort of wobbles. Yeah, I have not actually caught a bass on this, but
that's a gaff.
But this is like one of the first swim baits.
That's crazy.
And it's heavy. You can break a window.
Fish daddy in the house tonight. Give me all the gimmicks. Banjo, flying lure. Oh yeah, flying lure. Helicopter, mighty bite.
Moto Minnow. I gotta do this.
Oh yep. I had one of those. In the box that I threw away. I think my grandpa got me one.
So this is the Power Pack. This is the predecessor to the Moto Minnow. This was developed by a lawyer in Texas. Before Chuck Woolery and the Moto Minnow, there was the Power Pack. And I remember riding my bike to this tackle shop called the Tackle Box when I was like 14, and they had these on the shelf. And you could pull the string in the package. And the first farm pond I ever fished, there was no better bait at sunset than this thing. You throw it out right on the bank, like 2 feet off, and on the cast, it does this, and you just let it vibrate like a cicada.
Oh, good
and
call.
Smash
Wow.
for a long time. The biggest bass I ever caught was on this bait.
That's funny. It actually does. You are 100% correct. It does sound like a cicada doing that.
And then what happens is, so you cast it, and then when it stops, you pop it like a hula popper.
Yep.
And it does that again. So you can fish in the strike zone for a long time. I mean, you're probably scaring every fish within a square mile. But you can really stay in the strike zone.
But that one angry one, it actually does. Okay, I'll give it that. It does sound like a cicada.
Huh.
What else do we have? Let's see if there's any other fun comments or anything. People that have questions or want to know something. Philip.
Oh, SOB, I see that. So that's this. This is a spinnerbait designed by Don Butler, who won the second ever Bassmaster Classic on this bait, and he was the first ever member of the Bass Angler Sportsman Society. So he won Bassmaster. I think it was on Percy Priest in 1972, and it's a little it's a little nothing spinnerbait, but basically the Okie Bug was a tackle shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's where Jimmy Houston got his start. It's actually where Johnny Morris got his start. Don Butler loaned Johnny Morris his first, I think, $10,000 to get into Bass Pro Shops. And that was it. And he also loaned Ray Scott the money to start Bass Angler Sportsman Society. So he was a member numero uno. And
That's
I'll show you, this is kind of cool. So his Don Butler's son sent me this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is
that's super cool.
Don Butler's Bassmaster Classic jacket.
Dude, that is awesome.
That's what year is that from? Because whatever year it's from, it looks like
it's an 88 jacket, so it wasn't like but his was in 72. And there's some really good videos online they've got every Bassmaster. The first one, they put all these guys on a plane. They didn't tell them where they were going, and they flew them to the Nevada desert. And it was Lake Mead was the first Bassmaster, and they land in Nevada. They all have matching boats. I think they were allowed to bring one tackle box, which I think you could put, I think it was 10 pounds of lures you could bring. And then they set them all loose in identical boats on a lake that they had not pre-fished at all. It was just a different time.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember the old story of Bill Dance going I forget what it was, one of the first Bassmaster sanctioned where he destroyed on the plastic worm. Somebody was asking, I was a man's jelly worm guy, but somebody's asking about the Cream Scoundrel. Here you go.
Bill Dance was sponsored by Cream, but the first lure ever caught in a BASS tournament, we think was a flip tail worm. And the reason we think that is because Bill Dance was in the first ever BASS tournament.
Yep.
And he was notorious for fishing very close to the boat ramp. So the first tournament, he went right across the lake, and then he caught like a 2-pounder on a blue flip tail worm. So they think that was the first ever bass caught in a BASS tournament.
I remember,
he ultimately ended up working for Nick Cream down in Tyler, Texas.
Yep.
And he got on, and that's where this was a night. So this thing kind of coming full circle. So this is a night lures. This was Wayne Kent, Night Lures, who ended up buying Cream. He actually just passed away last year. But that was all basically that same genre of the company that was Nick Cream. Started at, I think, Ohio is where he was.
Yeah, people don't know all that about Bill Dance's. He was fishing Bassmasters. He was one of the guys that started Strike King. He was he did so much before. People just know that now you're fishing with Bill Dance today. And there was so much, more of Bill Dance before that. What is that?
Sparkle Scales. This was Bill Dance. This was Bill Dance and
I don't remember that.
Tennessee developed this. So this is the one where you shake it up.
And it gave a sparkly...
And it's got the sparkles. So you would basically put this on a worm. But the trouble was you got glitter all over your cart.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
You can imagine, it's 30 years old at this point. But it's got glitter in it, and then, it just gets glitter everywhere.
I spilled Spike It on Randy. Randy, how pissed would you be if I spilled
my God.
Stinky dead crawdad glitter oil on you?
Spike It's the worst because it's you got that stink and that stain, that dye. I would take a bath and Spike It before I got covered with that glitter stuff, because I have to assume once you get that on you, it infuses with your skin.
So people are asking about the Mans lures. Everybody knows if you watch my channel, I was a huge Mans guy. Mans, they had these, like, I think they called them, what was it, spade tail? I don't remember what they were. This is the jelly worm, like this blue color with the orange tail. And like I was before my time.
The stingray.
Is that what it was? The
stingray started that. Yep.
The auger tail was always like my favorite, which people are like, what's an auger tail? I don't have any of the big ones, but this is a little auger tail, and it's essentially like a spade tail, like ribbon tail worm. But dude, these things were like money. But these I would fish them on, you know, because back in the day I didn't have, you know, like shaky heads and all that, and I would just fish it on a big. I think Dad got me a bunch of these at one time. It was like literally out of the premise of I hate getting snagged all the time, but I had these old hooks, like little jig heads, and they have, see how they have a little screw there? I mean, what's that look like? That's like a nowadays shaky head, but they look like a little jig. And I fished them on these, and then just like a regular, you know, like a lead jig that was painted chartreuse or whatever, and fished them weedless. And like we had ponds and stuff growing up that these destroyed in, but oh man, the good old.
So yeah, scoundrel versus jellyworm is a tough one. I've got a special place in my heart for the scoundrel, but I probably fish the jellyworm more.
What is that?
This is called the hard worm. This is a man's bait as well.
I never had that one.
And so Tom, what I love about Tom, man, is he was like just a total, you know, goofball.
There was some crazy stuff. Yeah, there was some crazy stuff out there.
The wildest things ever. So this is not, I would say, a catcher like the Pogo Shad is for me. But yeah, this is a basic crankbait and a worm, but it's got the jellyworm tail. But it's a hard bait. So
it looks like some of the wake baits now, though.
I don't know.
I bet it would work. Is it all hard? Is the tail soft, or is it hard?
It's a straight up crankbait, but it's just got a little joint on it. So I need to throw. This is one actually I've been meaning. I bet it'll catch fish. Because I just, again, I don't catch enough fish as it is, and I don't want to limit myself more than I have to. But yeah.
You're in good company.
When you throw these older baits, are you using like an old school pistol grip bait cap?
Oh, he was showing them. Oh yeah. Check out some of this gear.
So it's funny. So most of the rods I used to fish with were all like 7.5 foot plus, medium heavy.
This is before. This is before all the old retro stuff we were talking about.
Before I did this silly venture, and now the longest rod I fish with is a 6-footer. So this is sort of reminiscent of what most stuff I fish with. Pistol grip. It's got a Daiwa Procaster on it, and just a one-piecer. It's like 6 foot. So that's the. A couple things I've learned about this. You know, you've really got to get the slack out of the line before you set the hook on a 6-footer or a 5.5-footer.
And they were soft. Is that a glass rod?
So this one is a graphite rod, but I've got the glass ones as well. I've got the old. Let's see here.
See, because that's, you know, back in the day, a lot of them were glass rods. So yeah, like when you set a hook into them, you've got to really reel down because there's so much like sponge you have to take up. What is that?
So this is a Johnson Century spin cast reel. So it used to be a time when spin cast reels were not just for little kids. They were like sort of the new reels.
Oh yeah. There's guys that still use them for skipping docks, dude.
Well-built reel that you probably would never use today unless you were crazy. And it's on a Johnson spin cast rod as well. So that's the nice metal guides, no graphite, just, you know.
Yeah, dude, there's still old guys that use the push buttons for skipping docks and skipping, and it's true. They work great for skipping.
Yep, but it's a heavy. It feels like a trolling.
Well, it was probably all aluminum. It was probably all metal, built to last. You know, not like now where it's, you know, plastic, graphite, and
yeah.
Stuff
ironically, the Johnson Century is probably a century old at this point. So yeah.
That's a beauty. This is so. I'll break out an oldie. I've got a couple of dads. One I did a video on. Whoops. The Ryobi VMAG. So I tore this completely down, redid it. This is one of Dad's. This is actually the baitcaster I learned, one of them that I learned to fish on. And it's funny because now, like, you know, you have the big, you know, the big push button. This was your push button. So you push this in and you would hold the line here. So you'd push that little thing down with your thumb, hold your line, and then reel it. And this thing is tiny. Like my hand goes over it. And I think this was, they said, blazing fast in the day at 4.1 to 1 gear ratio, right? That one, and then this one. This is my dad's first like nice bait caster that he got. And I think somebody else was talking about. It's all wore off here, but this is an old Shimano Bantam.
That is a Shimano Bantam. Yes, look at those handles, by the way.
Yeah, hard plastic. It's not
hardcore.
like soft
no
or rubber.
No grip. Just
Yep. But this is, I remember Dad telling me he bought this and he thought he had all the money in the world with this thing. I believe he caught his PB on this, which was, he said, a 9-something pound. He said the scale that he had was crappy. They had it in the bathtub, took pictures of it, and then they ate it. So that's what they did back in the day with big fish. You know, you had to bring it home because you didn't have this to take pictures. You had to bring it home. You had to click, you know. But yeah, so
disposable cameras, by the way, the best.
Yeah.
Did he have the one that had the little? You had to replace the flash on the top, the little cubes.
Probably.
You got 1 or 2 pictures out of each, and then it's.
Mom had the hood. Mom had the big box the hood she had to put over, and she would flash it, and then have to wait for like. Maybe that's a little bit older than Dad and Mom.
You just nail the whole camera. That's what I loved about those. You just sit the whole camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
people will never know the anticipation of going
first
to
reel
from Walgreens.
That first reel was the one that you try to be a slick guy on that one day.
No, that was the old Zebco 30, the old Zebco 30 push whip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was even way older than that. That was my old Zebco, one of the ones that I learned to fish on. What do you got
this
there?
This is the biggest reel I've got. So this is an old Abu Garcia Black Max. I actually haven't fished this one yet, but it's.
Randy, do you have any of those? Randy's got some old Abus.
Look at the size of that.
Yeah, no, those are a little bit old. Jesus.
They were big.
It's like a 2-pounder. It's bigger than most bass that I catch.
Yeah, I didn't know if we get into like, so this, I wouldn't consider this retro, but you're kind of around the same time. I think these were like 2002 these came out, but like my favorite is the 200E7 Corrado. But same thing, like these are a big, chunky reel. And
those are my new reels, by the way.
Dude, I've still use it. Favorite reel. Like you can't even see it on camera, but it's got this green with like pearly gold flake. Like they don't do that. They don't go to that kind of detail and colors. And I mean, still look at how old this thing is from 02. You know, I had one. I sold it for like $40. Then I went on kind of like a rampage earlier this year to get some, and I ended up buying 3. But love them. Let's see. What do we have for questions? We've been going down memory lane tonight. People are probably like, what in the hell is going on here? Fishing with Gramps in the house. What's up, Gramps? I'm actually going to be on Gramps' show Monday, so all you nerds tune in then. We are going to be doing a giveaway. I talked about that earlier. Monster Bass was nice enough to team up with old Debo. I'm going to purchase a box. They didn't even give me any boxes to give away free. I'm going to have to talk to them about that. But they allowed me to pick a box. I picked 9 baits. This is all me. It's not like they picked some crummy baits. I picked them. I sent them my list, and I figured it'd be for like $45, $29 for 9 lures. It's a good deal. I wouldn't put my name on it if it wasn't good, but it's all Debo picks. There is a topwater walking lure in there in the color the Shizzle. And if you know anything about Debo and Dizzle, you know why we like the Shizzle. I'm going to be giving away one of those. Anyway, I did leave the link. I'll throw the link in here again. If you guys want to pick one up, they did allow me to put it out early. So if anybody wants to pick up one, grab it.
Real quick, 2 things. My go-to jig reel is the Abu Garcia Winch. I actually just looked it up. 2009 is when that came out. So it doesn't seem like that long ago, but what's that, 12 years ago now?
That's old school.
That's old school. And that's my go-to, man. That is
still use it. Yeah, still swing it. Have you ever taken it apart and cleaned it?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. What did you say?
We were talking about this last time. He's never taken it apart and cleaned it in what, 12 years, and it's still going. You did oil it. You did finally oil it because you're like, this thing sounds horrible. You did finally oil it, but
I did oil it just a little bit. But the other thing is Debo, I just ordered one of those boxes too. So
my guy, I'm gonna order one. Yeah, Monster Bass. They did send me a free hat, but no boxes. Thanks, Monster Bass. I'll buy one with my own money and send to a winner. So here at like an hour, I'm going to pick someone. I'll just get your information and I'll purchase one and send to you because they're my lures. Guaranteed to catch dinks. Maybe not much else, but okay. What else do we have? I don't even know where to go. Retro. What do you have for us? We're all over the place now. I don't even know what direction to go in.
We are all right. Do you want another gimmick, or you want something that actually catches bass?
I don't know, Randall.
I want a bass catcher.
Okay.
So a bass catcher. Let's see here. So here's another one. A bait that. So you guys know tail spinners, like the Man's Little George, and there's some newer models which I probably don't know the names of. This is an old one called the Boone Orang. It looks like a pretty normal tail spinner with a crappy hook, but there is one difference to this. So one of the tricks with these baits, for me at least, is when the fish start jumping, it's a heavy bait and they can shake it. So check this. If the bait starts to get shaken by the bass, it separates, and this can slide up and down the line.
I'm sorry, what is that is that magnet, or what is that?
Tie the line to it. If you hook a bass, and you start shaking it, boom.
Okay, so my only question is,
the lure off.
If that tolerance gets loose, do you cast it, and does that ever pop off?
So the weight is kind of pushing downward, actually. And so this is a bait I didn't fish a ton growing up, but in these deep Texas lakes that I'm learning, there's a lot of schooling bass. They school almost like little stripers. It's weird. So I've been throwing a ton of tail spinners lately, and this is a cool one because it's really heavy, but it slides downward, so it will never come loose. But if a fish hits it and starts jumping, it will slide up and down the line like that.
That is insane.
That's funny. So David Smith says, you dudes got to mention Bass Fishing Archives. I'm not sure what that is.
I definitely do. So, yes, I do have to mention Bass Fishing Archives for sure.
Okay, tell us.
So there is, so basically kind of when I went down this journey, the reason I started the channel is I would research an old lure. I probably started with a power pack. And I would type something into YouTube, and you couldn't find anything on any of the lures that I grew up fishing. And especially now, you definitely can't. So I did find a website back in the day called Bass Fishing Archives, and they are basically, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, they're on, they've got their own Facebook page, but it's sort of the whole history of bass fishing. It's all the forgotten times, and it's so my buddy Terry Battisti runs it, and it's pretty cool. But it's everything. I'm the guy who, I'm not the expert. I'm not the professional bass angler. I just geek out over this stuff. Terry's the historian. He's the guy that if I want to know the history of something, I go to those guys and they kind of tell me, okay, like here's the history of it. Here's the history of this this tournament organization, this lure, you take a pick. So yeah, because the history, it's crazy. It goes so fast, right? If we'd had YouTube back when all this stuff came out, we would have it archived, but it was all, again, catalogs like this that just disappear. And we just lose that history, which is kind of the crime of the whole thing, right? Because there's a lot back there that is just gone if we don't cover it.
You used to get points if you were like a points member at Bass Pro Shop for ordering catalogs. So I remember I was getting like the spring classic, the all year catalog, the winter catalog, summer catalog, fall I was getting like 12 catalogs a year, just because I would get credit on my Bass Pro members reward card, and I could just sit there and look at all the lures and stuff too. So
is that Terry in the house?
That's him. What's up, buddy?
Can you guys hear Retro better now? I actually went in and turned your mic up, so hopefully people can hear. Somebody was saying he's still kind of hard to hear, so hopefully that's better. I turned your mic volume up, so hopefully you're better now.
I'll keep yelling. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're good, dude.
My mic is old school too. What can I say?
He's got a retro mic. Hey, cut us some slack here. There's all kinds of fun questions coming in. I'm doing really bad at getting questions. Best vintage lure that most people wouldn't know. Do you have one that like actually, you say you fish them? Is there one that you go to like, yeah, actually this is a legit good catcher? And also, I noticed back in the background, I remember going to the sporting goods stores and stuff with Dad. Over here, it's going to be your left shoulder. The actual packages of the like things where you'd have to pull the card off the deal and purchase one. I don't know if we have a bunch of old guys like us in here, but I remember that when me and Dad would go. They would lay like the rooster.
So this is cool. So most people probably don't know this. This is looks like a standard hair jig with a fiber weed guard, right? Well, the fiber weed guard that we all use today was invented by Virgil Ward, who also started Bass Buster Lure Company. So this is the first ever fiber weed guard. He designed it. He was a Bass Pro before there were. He was basically the guy that Jimmy Houston and Bill Dance looked up to, was Virgil Ward. So he invented the fiber weed guard. And honestly, this is an original one. It hasn't changed a ton since it came out.
That's a cool one. Hopefully, now somebody was saying I'm too loud.
Oh no!
I know,
Devo, you're always too loud.
I'm not the audio guy. See, I have a headset on, so maybe that's it. But
so I gotta say, Terry's got a good question of what defines retro. How many years back?
Okay, so that's a tough one. Yeah, so I think I'm sort of in between, where I'm not. Again, I like the national. You know, I'm a member of the National Federation of Lure Collectors, but I'm also a kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s. So for me, if it's something that I almost think of it like if it's, it was LJN wrestlers, He-Man, and fishing lures for me when growing up, So for me, I use the term loosely. If it's old, it's gold. If it's rusty and dusty, then I like it. It's a loose term.
Yeah, and we're okay with that here. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, I gotta say it all depends on what category you're talking about. Fishing lures for me, I feel like stuff evolves so fast.
That's true.
Like I remember when the first Shimano type electronic reel came out. It was like, I don't even know, not too many years ago. And now it's just like nothing. I remember the very first ones were like $600-700 a piece. And now they're just like, not that they're super cheap, but $150-200 you can get one. And it's got a chip inside that helps you not backlash. For me, it's like, I'm using a reel from 2009. Like that's gotta be retro or pretty close to it. Anything, pre-10s or teens, 2000 is probably retro for me.
Here's a pretty cool one. So being an Iowa boy, these colors would match your boat, retro.
Ooh, the old Lazy Ike. Yeah.
Yeah, the old Lazy Ike made here in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Let me see that thing.
I always called these a Lazy Ike, but I know a lot of people call these like a flatfish. But to me, these were always Lazy Ikes when we purchased them around here.
So there's two different companies that made them, and I'm not the expert on. I've got both, but yeah, I think Flatfish made one, Lazy Ike made one, and they're very similar baits. I mean, it's basically like a crankbait where it's just missing the head. It's basically a lip molded right into it.
It's almost like a lipless crankbait mixed with a crankbait. Like it's one piece like a crank, but it's literally just doing this, like a crankbait would. So it's kind of like a mix of the two, almost like a wiggle wart. Like you don't see it anymore these days where the whole bait is painted. It's always
That's awesome, and it looks like a good diver too because it's got a pretty substantial lip on it.
Yeah, I've got a few of these. I had that one. I had a couple small ones in here too. I'm trying to find them, but they came in a whole bunch of different. I think I had like a brown spotted one that actually did well. This was like a little mini version of it, same thing. But this was, the crazy colors back then, the spots, like the
old frog pattern.
Yep, the old frog spot, leopard frog or whatever. So yeah, they were cool. But I fished these back in the day, Lazy Ikes.
You don't see a lot of those on the circuit these days. That profile bait.
No, not too much.
So speaking of wiggle wart, here's an original one that I got.
Ooh.
So you guys know the story with why the pre-Rappalas are supposed to be so much better than the actual current wiggle warts?
They had a different material and different sound from what I've...
So they were made from butyrate, I'm pretty sure. But the molds, basically what happened was the molds that they were using were not very good. And by not very good, I mean they produced lips that were, let's see here, very crooked. And that crookedness actually made the bait hunt in really wild ways. Because the lip was a two-piece, and a lot of them were kind of like this. So when Rapala bought Storm, they fixed the molds, and some would say ruin the bait, which is kind of crazy. So that's why now, if you ever do want to find a pre-Rapala, the way you know is you look at the bottom. If the bottom says Storm, it's a Rapala. If it says Wiggle Wart, it's an original.
Let me make it bigger here. Sorry.
There you go. See that?
Yeah.
But look at this.
See, I don't get into the real old ones. I've fished wiggle warts and I've had good luck. But
this is one of my favorite fish. This bait does some wild stuff underwater.
Like how do you justify throwing something like that? That's not a cheap lure. That's not like
I
me
know.
going out to the store and like dropping $20 on a lure that they just make over and over and over again. You're not going to be able to go out and buy another one of those per se. You maybe find one on eBay or whatever. Like, I'd be scared to throw it, man. Like I got one of DEBO'S lures hanging up there, and he's pissed that I don't use it because he's like, I made it for you, I painted it for you, and this and that. And I was like, well, it's the first one I got from you. I'm not gonna ever throw it. And he's like, well, how do I know if it's any good? And I was like, I don't care. I can't replace the first one.
People are talking about these. I see people talking about the Budweiser beer cans. I don't have any of those, but back in the day when you could actually have like Camel cigarette advertisements. The old Camel, there was like the divers, and then this was a topwater plug. But if you remember back in the day, like
that's awesome.
I remember people smoking Camel cigarettes and stuff. But yeah, Joe Camel was a big thing, and you could get like the actual Camel cranks. Like, oh, there we go. There's the Budweiser.
Man. I like the Camel ones. So the Joe Camel, by the way, Rebel made those, and they're actually legitimate baits. The Humpback, they're legit. Like, it's in a weird color. It's like a camel color, and again, the color selector doesn't too often point to camel, but in theory, a fish catching bait. Yeah, this is an old spin cast of Budweiser. I've got the Big Bud. That's another one that's on my like bucket list of trying to catch some fish on. But it's a crankbait, but it's a topwater, and it's it's just.
They used to go crazy with stuff back in the day. I remember just recently I'm like cleaning out my dad's house and stuff, and he's got all these like Marlboro Miles and Camel Cash things just like sitting around, and I was like, I don't want to carry around a backpack that says Marlboro on it and pull out my Joe Camel molded koozie to put my Budweiser. I mean, okay, I'm gonna pull out my Joe Camel koozie to put my Budweiser in because that'd be awesome, but like some of the stuff they used to do back then is just insane, and part of me wants it to come back.
The old Camel bucks. That's how those were. I think it was a whole catalog for the Joe Camel stuff they had.
Oh yeah.
And you could get lures. They had like 3 variations of it and koozies, and take your pick.
See, we got all kinds of questions come through. I'm trying to pick some. Somebody was asking about the peanut.
Hey, what's up, Paul?
The peanut lure? Bulldog, I don't know that one.
You just
quick draw.
He's like, oh, actually, here, yeah, I do have one. Here you go.
Okay, so this is Cotton Cordell. Again, I would say probably if I had like my favorite lure producer, it was Cotton. He just made some wild stuff. This is called the Uber or the Prez, but there's a story behind this. So it's a peanut, but it's a crankbait. And yes, that's a grill. Those are teeth. So this was Cotton Cordell's homage to President Jimmy Carter, believe it or not.
Wow.
So back in the day, he was a peanut farmer from Georgia. And that was an old pin that I got.
Grin will win. Wow.
And then they made this bait, and this was like, yeah. This thing's big in Japan. They have like gold ones and fire tiger ones and all this stuff. So it's actually a good little shallow water crankbait. I've actually caught some bass on this. Probably need to do a full episode. But yeah, it's called the Prez or the Goober, and it's a straight up peanut with a lip.
With a grill. With a
with
lip
a grill.
Dude, I'm gonna steal that idea. I'm gonna paint some of my cranks with a lip grill.
Honestly, look at that.
That's pretty funny.
Wow. I mean, that checks out that it's really popular in Japan, in China.
Chris, I thought the exact same thing. He's like, he's like TJ. I was thinking Chris, not me with old lures. He's like TJ with the lures, like, oh, hey, do you have this? And he's like, oh, yeah, I happen to have the peanut lure right here, right next to me. That's something TJ would do. Let's see, what else? There was another one I saw, a question, like the Humpback. Number one was the Humpback Rebel Shallow Crank. I don't know if I remember that.
So that was that Camel. That's the Humpback Crankbait.
Oh, is that oh, okay.
And they make that normal color, so it's a legit crankbait. So like there's gimmicks, and then there's gimmicks that are kind of like borderline legit.
Just a different color.
Joe Camel, you can catch a bass on that.
Yeah. I think I remember fishing them. I don't know that I ever caught one. They were deep diving. But actually here, funny enough. So I said I had a Lazy Ike. This is the one that I used to catch them on. This is old from either mom or dad's tackle box. But that was the lazy.
Ooh, yeah, that's a lazy eye. Yep.
Orange and brown. That's the exact one right there that I had. With these little like floating rebel, minnows. I used to fish those a lot as a kid. Now I've got one stuck in my keyboard. Oh my gosh. What else? If you guys see questions, call them on. I'm trying to get a. We were talking about. So here's the crappy part about fishing lures, like fishing the old lures. So this is the
Vampire.
Blade, yeah, from the Vampire. I had a bunch of these, and I was down to a couple. I broke one. I was fishing the last one and lost it. I got it snagged. But this was, instead of having like your Colorado blade or willow blade, this was up on the front of it. It was kind of fixed, almost like a buzz bait. But you threw it out and fished it like a spinnerbait down below the water. And this turns, it's like two willow blades welded together.
Oh,
in there, but it's like, man,
that is a tough bait to find. I've been looking for one of those for a long time. That's a tough one to find.
Yeah, I used to have like 4 or 5 of them, and now I'm down to, I don't have any others left. I just have a blade.
Anybody recognize this one?
The heck? No, I've not seen that one.
Similar concept. This is designed by Shoestring Dubois. This is a Bass Pro spinnerbait called the Tornado.
Huh.
These things loose go for like $30. They're super hard to find. It's a spinnerbait, but the blade, similar to the Vampire, you can fish it as a spinnerbait, you can fish it as a buzz bait, and you can even adjust the blade, but it's got like a little clacker on it. But yeah, it's a I didn't get a zoom in. It's a Bass Pro band, and this was like in the 90s, and I don't know what year they discontinued it, but it's called the Tornado. It's got a plane-shaped head, and it's also got this little notch here. You could rig a rubber band to make it weedless from the point of the hook up in there.
Oh, man, that's actually pretty cool.
It's actually a money bait, but I don't throw it off because I've only got like 4 of them left. And again, to replace one loose in the package for like $50.
So what's the little lip on? Is there a lip on the blade?
There sure is. It's got a little lip, and I think you can in theory adjust that if you wanted to. But I just kind of fish it like a normal spinnerbait. But if you reel it fast, it just sort of. Actually, let me see if. Let's see. I'll look in the catalog and see if there's a spread. But it like starts flopping. At one time, this was like the #1 bait from Bass Pro, back in the early '90s.
That's amazing. I think I've seen those floating around. I don't know where it would have been, but I feel like I've seen those before. Like,
there it is.
Oh yeah,
that's a spread.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the stuff.
Oh, I got the Uncle Bucks down there.
Uncle Bucks, I know. I love Uncle Bucks. I've got an Uncle Bucks calendar, but it's not decent for live stream. So.
Gosh, these are.
And they had another one, this is a pretty rare one, called the Cajun Rattler, and it's a spinnerbait, but it's got a little rattle in the blade. I used to love that thing.
Dude, it's funny how they're still doing, like, what was the one, the Yozuri ball knocker or whatever, like they have now?
Oh, it had just the big.
Had just a big ball on it. Yozuri made one with just a big ball. So
yeah, I have one of those
spinnerbaits.
I couldn't never follow that. Did you catch any fish on that? I tried.
I caught one randomly out of a farm pond. And it was, the crazy thing is, like the entire thing was like a bright fire engine red. I have no idea where it is. I know I still have it. I've seen it.
And it just sort of like moves, right? Like the ball.
Yeah.
It's a weird bait. I love it.
Vibrate like in the water.
Old school bait. That should have been like an 80s gimmick lure.
Yeah. Like I gotta find that thing. I'm gonna throw that next time I go out and just see what happens.
Let's see. Do you have any other good fish catchers? Oh, we're at an hour too. Let's see. I'm going to pick a winner in case there's people just kind of hanging around wanting to win a DEBO box. Thanks. I always have to give Gramps a shout out. Thanks, Fishing with Gramps, for showing me the giveaway tool, because this takes all the guesswork out of people saying
DEBO rigged it.
Yeah, DEBO rigged this. It was first on my screen. I'm like, well, listen, I can't see what's on your screen. I can only go what's on mine. So get ready for the comments to absolutely light up here, because
Stubby.
Not that.
B's and G's.
How do I switch? Oh my gosh, I remember the first time I did a YouTube live. There we go. Get one. Okay.
If I had a choice, Riley would win with
hashtag retro.
Nice.
Matt Dev says 3 of the best. What are 3 of the best old school old lures? Let's see. I'll pick one of mine. Retro, I'll let you pick a couple. Randall, do you have any by chance? I didn't give you any time to prepare. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you didn't. The only thing I wanted to do was, call out Tackle Junkie for making fun of us in his last video. Well, not making fun of us, but blaming us in his last video. As far as retro, are you talking like an actual old school? Because for me, old school is honestly, I came river fishing back in the day with a hook and a sinker. I was hardcore into that. Or God, the stink bait lure, the little plastic with the treble hook at the end that you would need to find a stick out in the woods and shove your stick in there.
Oh God, that stuff was awful.
I stored that. Never store that in your shed if raccoons have access to it. Just buy those little tips. That happened.
The thing is if you ever get that stink bait, just like after you're done using it for that outing, throw it in somebody else's garbage, and just go buy a new one if you need to.
Okay, here's one.
It'll liquefy.
It's disgusting. I hated that stuff. Dad would always shove the stick down in it and then try to put the stick on my face. Ugh. My dad used to give me a bunch of crap when I was younger. I get a pick on him now, though. It's all good. Okay, so here's one old school lure. Couldn't tell you who made this soft plastic. This one was cool because it's got hold on. I'll make myself larger here. If you're just hopping in, hashtag retro, as you see on the screen there. I'm going to pick a giveaway winner here. So this was a worm that had, so we know, like missile baits, all these different worms have these ridges now, right? Well, this one had this extra round, that would be hard to make that mold to actually shoot that. You have to make sure each one of those actually comes out right. And then the tail, does it say, I think it says on here what it is. I don't even know what this is.
That's weird looking. That's like what are those
Croco Gator, it says. Croco Gator.
Humpies.
But it's got your ribbon tail, but it's all serrated. It says Croco Gator. I couldn't tell you who this is.
And what is it on the side, though? Okay. So that's a mixture between two baits, it looks like. So first off, it looks a little bit like this.
Well, hold on. Everybody can only see me right now. Okay. Here we go. Yeah.
So look at the ribs.
Yeah.
This is called the Action Lure's breathing worm, but the tail looks like a ditto gator tail.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It says Croco Gator on it.
That's a super tough bait. That is, I think it was Larry Nixon used to fish that thing. That's a tough bait to find and a great, it's almost like a culprit, ribbon tail, but it's got a more aggressive action to it. That's a tough one. Oof. But the ribs on that thing are wild. So they're supposed to catch air, I think, as it goes down.
Yeah.
They catch air.
Still left, but I remember throwing them. I don't remember catching stuff on them, but yeah, these wild things. I had that one, and then one that actually reminds me of the I'll show you here. I don't know who made this or what it was, but this one was interesting because they took the opposite. So instead of putting extra stuff on it, I don't know that I can show you. This has all sorts of dimples. So if you think like a golf ball, this has all kinds of dimples all the way through the whole bait. It almost reminds me of
cover your eyes up a little bit, Debo.
I don't know.
Trying to focus on those.
So that's a Mr. Twister bait. It's either the woo worm or the pocket. But I can't
show you, but it's literally all holes all the way into it that go halfway down.
Yep. Yeah, that's a Mr. Twister bait. Yeah, and that's designed to basically catch the air as it hits the water. Yeah. And then release the little air bubbles.
Yep. So yeah, some oldies in here. I used to have a really cool. Here. I had a big version of this too. You think the little axolotl type things, the little mud dogs that have the little red. That's what this thing was. It's got the little red gill flangey things on it.
It's cool. Yamamoto makes something similar, but he's got more phalanges everywhere.
Well, I think Fish Labs came out with one. Remember when I was saying the salamander that has the skirt stuff on it?
Yep.
So that was, by the way, so what you just held, that was a Rebel Redneck.
Oh, okay.
Designed by Lauren Hill. and that was a color selector bait. So they had that in every color selector color.
Oh my gosh, dude! I don't have all
But the
those.
neck was always the same though, and it removes. You can pull that thing off, which is wild.
Yeah, yep. It's like a little.
That weightless in a farm pond. Oh, they hate it.
I remember catching fish on these, like just on a little jig head. I do remember catching fish on those. And the last one, another man's. You'll know this one. This was a cool one.
Is that the dragon?
Yep. So it's got your little tail, and then it's got the
I've
tube.
never caught fish on that. Do you Carolina rig that?
I always just threw them on a jig head, dude. Everything I fished when I was little on a jig head, just like you would like a curly tail grub on a jig head. Everything on a jig head. Okay, I'll do one last one because these were cool too. I remember fishing these with Dad, and we did catch fish on them. So these were, you would use a tube jig head, like a little tiny tube jig. The front of this has a hole in it, right? What? You would take the tube jig, thread it through, and we had all these in different colors. I want to say this was maybe a color selector one too because I had
is that a tender tube?
I don't know.
Bass Pro, I think, had those, right?
I have no clue what they are. I couldn't tell you.
It might have been a Bass Pro deal. Yeah, but the jig head is hidden in the tube itself.
Yeah, I don't have any that are rigged up. Yep. Yeah, you would take just a little tiny thin tube jig head, like you would fish one of these on, like a crappie tube. So just like you would fish like a regular crappie tube, you stick the tube jig in it, and same thing you do here, except you thread it through there, and you've got the hook sticking out here, and yeah, hides the jig and everything hides up inside of it, so it just looks like a soft plastic with a hook. But yeah, those are pretty cool old ones too. I don't know that I have anything else really that cool. Oh, one more. I did catch a bunch of bluegill on these. Sorry, these were frogs. Everybody knows DEBO likes to frog fish, right?
Oh yeah, those little tiny frogs, huh?
Little tiny frogs with and I would just put it on a jig head like a pork trailer.
Like a super tiny jig head, like a 30-second or something.
So DEBO, have you seen this frog?
No.
So this is one of the original topwater frogs. This is called the Bill Plummer Super Frog. And he designed this bait.
It's got the
those legs.
I
was just going to say, Lunker Hook stole those legs.
Dude, so this is a great bait, but so the most innovative thing, so with this bait, the hook goes downward.
What?
And he patented this weed guard. So this weed guard is very unique to this bait. I don't necessarily love it, but basically the whole bit is when a fish hits, see that it goes right past the hook.
So there's no catch on it?
There's no catch on it. Now this is actually, so in open water, this is actually a great open water frog because what it does is when you jerk it, because of this, it kind of goes underwater a little bit. And then the legs are totally lunker hunt. Yep, that's a... But this is not a new bait, yeah. And it's solid foam. So it's a unique frog because most, 9 frogs out of 10, that hook is now pointing upward. So this is a downward pointing hook. But yeah, it's the Bill Plummer Super Frog.
Yeah, I've got
guaranteed if I threw that frog, a pike would bite it in half.
The only thing I've actually caught on this are frogs. Actually.
Oh yeah, frogs love. I don't know why. Whenever me and Randy go, frogs love to absolutely
get aggressive.
Yeah, very very aggressive. The old Mr. Twister frog hog. I remember having these in like a dark green when I was a kid. But okay, let's pick a giveaway winner. People are like, "Oh my gosh, DEBO, you're old. We get it." So here we go. We've been talking forever. Am I sharing? Oh no.
No, you're
there.
DEBO.
We go.
Get it?
The winner is Chris, an Iowa guy. That's funny. See, it wasn't rigged. I didn't just choose Chris. Chris, you know how to get a hold of me. I will hook you up with a box. Well, that's an easy winner. All right. Cool. Well, Chris, you are the winner. We're going to keep going here. Retro, do you have another 15 minutes to spare with us? Awesome. We're going to go for 15 minutes more, then I'm going to get out of here. We'll let everybody go. Chris, hit me up. Hopefully you're on. I should have checked to see if he's still on. It's only fair. You can only win if you're on. Chris, are you on? He is. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's do another. Does somebody have a question? Retro, do you have anything you want to share that you didn't share?
This or that. Anybody this or that?
Ooh, yeah, this or that.
Been itching.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Retro. So first off, if you guys don't follow Retro Bassin, he's got his own YouTube channel. Obviously, all old school retro stuff. Make sure you give his YouTube channel a follow. I'm unfortunately haven't been able to watch a bunch of your stuff, man. I don't really watch YouTube, funny enough, having a family, full-time job, and kids. I don't watch anybody really. But I have watched some of your old stuff. Like you were saying, the antique lures one I watched, that was one that took off. He and I were talking before. It's like YouTube is a weird animal because he said he put it out and like a year later, it absolutely took off, you know? And I don't know why it does that.
I got 10 out of my 12 subscribers in 1 week. It was wild.
That's nuts. Yeah, I've got stuff that it's like a month later, a month and a half later, and oh, hey, this video all of a sudden did well. But check out his channel. But you're hooking me up with a box. I don't have any clue what's in it. Retro's sending me a box. It'll be a whole video. I'm going to unbox it. I am excited, dude. I'm excited.
So it is the 12 retro days of Christmas. So I sent you 12 different things in here. I put a description for each one because, you know, it's some of this stuff is I tried to dig in like the bottom of the tackle box, like the rustiest, dustiest stuff I could find.
Oh yeah,
I put in there.
I like that stuff.
The package though, so it's basically all old school stuff. You can either keep it or cast it. Either way.
Cool.
I will show you one thing that's in there. This is kind of cool. So one of the things that I do, so I travel for work, my day job, and anytime I'm somewhere, I try to go fishing, but more importantly, I try to hit like any local tackle shop. If there's like an old mom and pop in, you know, in the back of a gas station, I will spend some time there. So being in Texas, I found one place which is called Jensen Fishing Tackle, and in it they have this bait, which is called the Extractor. This is a discontinued bait that they actually still have. They sell them for, it says $1.19, but if you buy like a box of them, it's $1 each, and it's a Bucktail Spinnerbait made from deer that were harvested in Austin, I think probably in like the 1960s. So this is a great bait because if you lose it, it's $1, which is amazing. But it's just like a little, you know, a little bucktail spinner, great for spinning rods, great for farm ponds. And I threw one of these in there because, again, this thing's been out of production for, you know, at this point, probably 40, 50 years.
So those are originals. This isn't like a remake. These are like the actual old ones in this place.
No, it's an old school family-owned tackle shop. It's actually owned by the guy who invented this antique bait, which is called the Jensen Frog. And this is a topwater frog that I wouldn't fish because I'd probably destroy it. But when you pull the line,
oh my gosh, that's like those Christmas ornaments that you do that with.
Honestly, this should go on the tree.
Are you sure that's not a lunker hunt lure? I'm kidding. All the lunker hunt
and it's got a treble hook and a single hook, which is the wildest. Yeah,
that's nuts.
So there are what I love about it though is I go to the big box stores, I go online, but I love to find the places where they might have something that otherwise wouldn't get sold, right? And this thing could be on the shelf for another 30 years, but we go there, we just uncover it, and hopefully some folks go and buy stuff.
That's awesome. Bring it back to life. Yeah, I'll throw the heck out of that. Retro.
So that's one of your 12.
And when he snags it on something, if I'm there, I'm gonna go in and get it. Just saying.
So the Jensen, is that different from like the old lure Jensen stuff, or like?
So it is, and so it's spelled differently with the E instead of the O. But online, if you're ever searching, they kind of get mixed up a little bit. Even in the old catalogs, they did. But it's a totally different one. But yeah, it's still an independently owned tackle shop right in downtown Austin, actually.
Yeah, Randall Pink Floyd. I have to give him a quick shout out. So Randall Pink Floyd actually sent me a bunch of old school blanks. He has his hands on a bunch of old blanks, so some like old lure Jensens, some old hot shots, all kinds of stuff. I don't have any by me, but I'm painting up some to send him. Do you have one there? No. Okay. So Randall, he's saying he's a longtime subscriber. He's a great guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to him in your comments, super good guy. But okay, so
super engaged. But I loved it, and that's kind of cool too because you do a show all the time, and you kind of know it's like the subscribers who honestly put a comment in every video. They kind of make the whole deal, right? I mean, for me, I drop a video most Saturday mornings if I can. I spend honestly probably an hour plus going through the comments. I love that because we do this. You put the content out, you don't necessarily get a ton of feedback otherwise, right? Yep. And so it's kind of cool to engage folks. So yeah, Randall definitely, he's always dropping a comment, which is awesome.
So here, I don't know what you have there. Tom says, does Retro have the as seen on TV booby fishing lure? Is that
that is an obscene lure, and no, I don't have that one. They had a whole page in Bass Pro Shops back in the day of like these obscene, joke lures that, again, the things that they could put in a catalog in 1988.
Oh yeah, little bit different, Let's see. Let's pick a couple other here. I don't know that I have any other cool ones to share. If you do retro, go ahead and grab. I'm going to try to look through, see what I have. If we're talking,
so I've got a lure that I just picked up that I haven't fished yet, but I want to fish. So there's old school, and then there's like sort of old school flavor. So this is one I picked up from a buddy of mine by the name of Michael Bacon, who runs a place called Bacon's Tackle in
Kevin's his brother,
Louisiana. And he is a third-generation tackle shop owner. His father was actually roommates with Jack Smithwick of Smithwick Lures. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so he knew all those guys. At one point, they used to make the rubber skirts for every company. So he actually makes his own lures now. And this is one he made. This is actual frog skin topwater bait.
What?
Yeah.
So he actually like skinned a frog and put it under the clear coat?
He has a whole process where they'll actually get frog legs. And he has a whole process where he'll make them. Is actual frog skin on it. And let's see if he signed. I think he signed. Yeah.
Shut up. That's awesome.
And what he says about this bait, this is cool. It's a propeller bait, but it's also got this nice little weight in the back. And he says that frog skin, I've kind of been scared to throw this thing, but that it really has a unique natural sheen in the water.
I bet. Yeah. They have
Whoever in Shreveport, Louisiana hit Bacon's, it's like a museum. And so every time I go there, I spend probably 4 hours.
Wow.
But there's still stuff out there. You just got to dig. But it's crazy. You go around. Honestly, you're driving somewhere. You hit the GPS, and you type in tackle shop. You'd be amazed what comes up. It's not a Bass Pro or a Cabela.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know. Debo. I've taken him down to what my local tackle shop is here, and I know he got. God, I don't know what they were. Like a 132nd kind of jig head, or what? What were those, Debo?
I don't even know what they were called. Retro, I would love to pick your brain. Hold on, I'm going to look.
But they were, like you would pull down one before, you rip off one of them to go up to the counter and, pay for it. And Debo was looking around. He's like, oh, my God, they have these. I've been looking for them for forever. And he, walks up with the whole thing. And the guy's like, do you want to?
Oh, as you can see, I love to buy, the whole card of something,
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know. God, I remember going once to a U-Haul return place, and I don't remember what town it was in, but we returned the thing, go in and talk to the guy, and he had, little boxes of 22 ammo, and right next to it, those cards. And if I would have been even half as smart as what I used to think I was, I would have bought all of those cards because they probably would have been super collectible by now.
I was looking for them. I don't, but it was like a little tiny jig head. It was like a silver jig head that somebody took and squashed. So it was like a round jig head this way. It had fur tied behind the head of it, and then it had these little tiny grubs, and they were only about this big with a little V tail on it or foot on it. And we used to get them in, I want to say Walmart or Kmart.
Okay.
I feel like it was a big store, and they were on the little tags where you'd have to pull them off. Do you remember those or no?
I'm trying to think what they were, man.
So I found some new ones. There's a guy that made them locally, and I about crap my pants when I found them. I bought all of them, and I cannot for the life of me find the old ones or the new ones that I did with them. I've got them. I don't know, dude, and that's upsetting.
And the crazy thing is when you bought those, they were like, "Oh yeah, this guy's this is it. He's not doing it anymore. He's either he can't or."
I bought the whole thing. Everything.
I'm gonna go down tomorrow and see if they have any more. If they do, I'm gonna buy them and then taunt them in front of your face.
Yeah. Oh, actually, here, hold on. I think I put it in my trap bag. Oh yes, okay. So here's the old ones.
Trout.
Do these ring a bell? Yeah, Randy, what do you think? Did you watch that trout video of me and you?
No, I didn't. Did you keep that reel I threw in the woods?
Yes, I kept it. So this is what they were.
Would.
These were my favorite. Dad and I had a day where I absolutely destroyed. Make me bigger here. Ooh. Destroyed bluegill and crappie on these. We were fishing in the trees, and it's this little silvery, shiny jig head. I don't know how big these are, with hair behind it, and then it had these little
132. Yeah, that's tiny.
This little V tail behind it. So those were the actual originals from when I was younger, and then we found these that this guy made at a local tackle shop. That's like a replica
They're
of them.
Silvery, right?
Yeah, these are like a white, but same thing. So I picked the whole card and just bought everything they had there. Have you seen those retro? Do you know what those are?
No, it looks like a logo. What I love about it though is it's probably a Midwest thing where like it's crazy how like when I moved from Maryland to Texas, there were certain lures up there that were geared toward that fishery that you just don't see anywhere. We had a spoon called the Crippled LY, which was great for trolling for striped bass, but then down here you just don't get any of that. So that must be a Midwest lure of some sort.
Dang.
Oh yeah, I mean, at least around where I am. I mean, go a little bit north and east of me. There's like you start getting into all the trout lakes and things like that. You would run into a ton of those little shops next to the water that have those cards, and it's just like old Joe Blow made all these little jig heads and throw them, and they're guaranteed to catch you a Creole full.
What was I was looking through my old tackle. What is this thing? So this is like a vampire lure inline spinner. Is this a thing? Is this a?
Oh, that is a thing. I don't know who makes that.
So it's like the vampire lure, just like here, but it's like an inline, like your inline spinner, and it just does
that's
this.
That's wild. Honestly, that's probably a man's as well. My
I would guess
is because the man's made the vampire, so they probably made that.
Yeah.
No, I was going to show you. Somebody asked what the favorite baits were. This is an old school one I used to throw a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the MEPs. Yeah.
I remember one of the first times I went, Okoboji lakes are big around here. One of the first times I went up there, I was told chartreuse skirt on a MEPS inline spinner will just crush them. And I remember I was 6'6" or 7 foot spinning rod. I threw some braid on there, and I don't even remember what reel it was. And I remember catching one of the bigger pikes I've ever caught before on one of them.
It's weird. So not necessarily a bass bait, right? But pike, I used to fish for pickerel a lot. Inline spinners were like, we never fished a spinnerbait. But then when it comes to largemouth bass, nobody was really throwing an inline spinner. So I wonder if that would work.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with like pike and bass and even muskie, like they all just want to get after whatever, the others, trying to eat basically. And I know one of the big things up there was, if you're running into a bunch of pike and you're fishing for smallmouth, you got to move spots because if the pike are there, they pushed out all the smallies, and vice versa. If you run into a bunch of big smallies, they pushed out all the pikes. So they got to be universal as far as what they want to eat and trying to survival of the fittest, I guess.
Can't resist the flash. Randy and Lori Arnberg was asking me about the box. Thank you for the donation, dude. You didn't need to donate. I put the link in the chat there again for the Monster Bass Debo box. I did see Gabe is in here. 10 horses. Is it your birthday? Somebody was saying your birthday. Happy birthday, brother, if it is. Jim, the tackle junkie himself. Jim, so we were actually just talking about you. I said, hey, fellas.
Hey, Jim, whatever those War Eagle spinnerbaits were, I was just happy to come across a Bass Pro Shop and stopped and got a bunch of all of those. So thanks. I'm blaming that on you. I don't need to report to anybody or anything like that, but I'm just blaming you on that. So
here's another old one that I had by that little vampire spinner. So you were showing that little inline tail spin. Is this a Johnson? I don't know.
I guess that's the same deal. So that's a man's Little George, looks like.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, so this is cool because like the back
Governor George Wallace, which is interesting. But yeah, this is a different version of it, but that's the man's bait, that tail spin.
So what's the deal with the it looks like the line tie behind the blade. What's that all about?
So what it is, this is meant to basically fish, I would say for schooling fish, deeper vertically. You tie here, and then this just spins. So this bait will just sink like a stone, and you can jig it vertically.
Okay. It's like ice fishing in deeper water. Like
so that back tie, fishing. That's even though it's
not a tie,
it's just a little.
Oh, it's not.
They just bend it over to hold your bead and stuff on.
Ah, gotcha.
I don't know. Cool old stuff. Okay, the last one I've got that's cool, and then we're gonna take a couple questions and we're gonna get out of here. Of course, since it's old school retro stuff, my dad, everybody knows, Tequila Sunrise was his color. Now he always threw like the Berkeley Power Worms. I still have some of the old culprit ribbon tails,
Mm-hmm.
and these were like a whole ribbon tail of a worm. Yeah, the whole thing was a tail, and it was like
what was the name of that? Oh, you stumped
fluttering.
me. I don't know the name of that one.
I think it was called the ribbon tail, if I remember right. I don't know. It was culprit. I thought it was called the ribbon tail.
It might be. My favorite from culprit that I haven't fished with is called the sticky worm. And basically, you know how Velcro is two pieces? It's the sort of fuzzy part and then the hooks part, like the little grappling hooks.
Uh-huh.
Well, because the bass's teeth are similar to that part, they actually made the foamy part.
It's
and
like
there's a
that
strip of that, basically the other side of the Velcro on the worm. And the theory is a bass bites the worm and it can't spit the bait.
I don't think
boom frog.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So we talk about how stuff comes full circle. Retro, I don't know how much you keep up with current day lures. How about this? So like we talk about all the time. I talk about it all the time. Like I'm a huge spinnerbait.
Pull one up if you can.
That's what I'm going to do. So spinnerbait is like my number one confidence lure of all time. Like back in the day, I threw spinnerbaits just because like I didn't know how to fish a worm like that, and I could just throw it out and catch stuff, just cast and reel, right? Well, so we talk about how stuff comes around. It's funny that you say that because boom, boom. Here is the Fred Rombanus Boom Boom Frog. I don't know if have you heard of this?
Is that the one that's got basically the Velcro on the top of the frog?
It's got a little patch of the Velcro
thing.
on top.
Yes. That is totally it.
Yeah, there you go.
Boomerang. I typed in boom boom.
Freaking boom boom frog. I remember getting this frog in a mystery tackle box, and I was like, "Oh, I thought I saw on some, as we talked about before, the Saturday morning, fishing shows. It was like, oh, boom boom frog, super awesome, blah blah blah, do this and that."
So does it work?
And
does it actually stick in the bass mouth?
I don't know if I've ever caught a fish on it.
Not at all. You know what it grabs? You know what sticks to it really well?
Scum.
Moss. Yeah. So here it is.
And
so it's got the hairy Velcro stuff on it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think it's a gimmick. The thing I do like though, they throw an eye on the bottom so it looks like a fish. Nice. Do you know that, Randy? Do you know they do that? Throw the eye on the bottom?
I didn't know that. I mean, mine was ripped apart by Pike like the second I threw it. So no, I didn't realize that. Pike bit that part off for me. So
it's funny how they just continue to recycle lures and gimmicks, and oh man,
right.
It's funny. Wow.
I'm gonna probably pass out or faint or something the next time a new lure comes out and the hooks are upside down, reversed, opposite of what you're just showing there on those frogs.
They're gonna have hooks hanging down with a keeper, a wire keeper, and be like,
yeah, the little flappy keepers.
And it's gonna be a lunker hunt.
ICAST 2022. Here we come.
Yep. Jim says, "Debo, reach behind you. I'm sure you have one." All right, what else do we have? Jury is still out on the revolver. Honestly, having more fun with the head and Super Spook Juniors are awesome. I don't know what the revolver is.
The revolver bait.
Oh, Randy probably has one. Randy, do you have one there?
I don't have any. Speaking of head, and remember that one time I gave you that super awesome head and bait, and you're like, "Oh, I'll totally restore this." And every time I ask you about it, you're like, "Oh, it's on my dresser."
Dude, it is. I could go get it now. I'm not
AKA dresser means garbage can. 7 years.
So, have you guys seen this one?
Head. Oh yeah, yep.
Oh yeah.
The old slope nose.
Yep.
So I just picked some of these up, and I don't have an original because originals are way too expensive to actually throw. But I've thrown it a few times. It fishes. It definitely splashes a lot more than a spook. It's a little bit harder to get the side to side, in my opinion.
I bet. Yeah, that's a lot of drag.
It wants to plow a little bit more often.
That's crazy. Like, I don't even know what people were thinking back in the day with some of the stuff, honestly, that they've made. It's just like, they're like, oh, here, let's throw a giant ring of aluminum around this lure or lunker legs,
So this is the bait. They call it the world record largemouth bass, George W. Perry. This is a Fintale Shiner. For years, they thought it was the creek chub wigglefish. This is the one that he caught in Georgia, just outside of, I think, Helena, Georgia. And this is an old creek chub. These tails are, this is like leather.
Where's the
That's
tie
cool.
on that? Is it on the blade or is it on top?
There's a tie here. This is actually not a tie. This is just meant to basically fasten the bill in. So the tie is up front. So it's a shallow diving crankbait. All wood. Old school.
Jeez.
I've got a couple. Yeah, I got a couple kind of like that. That's a cool one. I've never seen the ones with the the leather on them.
Yeah,
I've got
leather side fins. It's hard to get. It's pretty tough to get one with the fins intact.
Well, it's the same.
So I thought it was another bait, and it turns out that it was actually this was the fish. Now there's a ton of debate whether or not it was actually even a largemouth bass. A lot of folks think he caught a striped bass, just because it's way bigger than any bass ever caught in the state. But in theory, that's the bait right there.
That's funny. I've got so my wife's grandpa has one of the old Sure Strike minnows in box, which I'm sure is like highly sought after. I've never fished these old ones, but this is same lip, but it was like a jointed.
Very creek chub ass. That's a good pike bait.
I would catch pike on that. That would be fun. And here's one. I've never heard of these. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but I saw this one in the box. I'm like, oh, these are cool. The Cisco Kid.
No, never mind.
Johnson Hills. It was $2 there. Proven killer for trout, pike, bass, walleye, any other game fish. Boca Raton, Florida. This thing is cool. It's got like the like metal leader deal there that you tie to, and then it's got metal lip. Yeah, and it's like jointed. I've never seen one of these.
How do you think
like
that
would
would
trout bait or something, huh?
How do you think that would fish if you tied another steel leader onto that to a
snap
like the snap swivel?
Snap swivel leader. I don't know. It's a cool little thing. I've never seen one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely for toothy critters.
Yeah, it's got like your built-in leader there. Metal. Yeah. That was cool back in the day. You know, everything had like the metal lips. I think that's about exhausts the coolness of my stuff. We were talking about. I was talking to Dad the other day. I was showing him some of the old Rapalas where it shows they were. I know people look after when they want it on the bill where it says Finland on them. You can't even see it there. But
so my coolest thing that I heard about the history of the Rapala minnow was that Lori Rapala, to get that metallic look on the first ones, he actually used chewing gum wrappers for that metal, and that was like the first ones he used was a chewing gum wrapper. That's
funny. Let's talk about a pike lure. There's a pike lure right there.
All right, so how do you throw those? Because that's always like it's a bait that you would want to throw on a bait caster, but those are so light.
Oh yeah, well this is a giant one. But yeah, the floating ones. I mean, so back in the day, actually, this is how Dad cut his PB, that big one, floating a brush pile, essentially Carolina rigging a floating Rapala. Not a big one like this. It was one of the little like 2-inch. But you know, you've got your Carolina rig sinker and everything. Throw it out, it takes it all the way down. Then you've got your floating Rapala. So it's like, you know, a liter or 2-foot leader or whatever. This is sitting there, you drag it, and then it just sits there like a suspending, you know, back in the day when Dad didn't have suspending jerk baits and stuff. Nice. Throw it down there, and that's what Dad caught his PB on, was a suspended Carolina rigged floating Rapala. So, but these, I mean, I just fish these over grass, you know, jerk it or just like, you know, and then let it float up is how I always used to fish these, just like a crankbait. But I mean, you can jerk them, pop them, you know, make them do erratic stuff, but.
Cool. Speaking of balsa, I was gonna say I think I caught my PB on a balsa Rapala, you know, a couple years ago.
A DT.
It might have been considered a foul hook, but I don't know. It was on a balsa Rapala BX.
Oh, he's being a smart aleck. He's hooked me a couple times now.
Once.
Twice. You hooked me in the back that one day.
So let's see. You can do a good like unhooking episode. Perfect.
Yeah, well, so we did, and then
except for my hands were wet and I couldn't hold on to the braid, and it just kept slipping as I felt bad.
He was torturing me. He's like, "Oh, sorry, I ripped it more." Whoops. I'm like, "I'll do it. Get out of here, Randall." All right.
And the worst part is like hooked in his leg and his shorts. And...
Super cool. Oh, so speaking of, the little Roadrunners. I think I said Rooster Tail before. I meant the Roadrunners. I remember we always used to buy these on the little pegs, and so that's the same thing. It's got each one in a little plastic deal there. You would pull them off and buy them. But all right, well, we're at an hour 40. Holy crap, dude! So Retro Bassin, anybody that wants to follow you, check out the old retro stuff. Where can we find you?
So it is the old Retro Bassin on the YouTube, and I'm also on Instagram as well as Retro Bassin. So no G on the end of it.
Retro Bassin, like me saying Fishin, just the N on the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are sweet shirts, dude. And you do have a damn catchy intro tune.
Yeah, well, I do have to thank. So that's actually, so living in Austin, I happen to be friends with a bunch of really good musicians, and my buddy, who's got a band called Neutral on Paul, one day, just out of the blue, says, "Hey man, I was kind of bored hanging out in the studio, and I wrote you this song you may or may not want." And now the viewers have to suffer through 48 seconds of that every episode because I loved it. I'm like, hey, look, this is going to go in every single time.
This is awesome. No, dude, it does. It totally fits the whole retro vibe, like the whole theme song in front. And yeah, dude, I love it. Cool stuff. Well, dude, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate you chilling with us. Randall, thank you as always. And everybody watching, thank you all. Hope you all had fun. That's it for us. Until next time.